Ashley here with hearthookhome.com, and today we are going to work up one of my new stunningly gorgeous Tunisian full socks. This is a sock pattern that starts at the toe with traditional single crochet. Then we switch to the Tunisian full stitch. We create our ankle by increasing along. We pinch off when we get to the leg, continue, we add this beautiful ribbing, and then we seam the heel. This is a beautiful sock, beautiful pattern. Cannot wait to crochet it with you. So let's get started. For this Tunisian crochet sock, I am using Hawthorne fingering yarn in the John's Landing multi. Absolutely beautiful yarn. I love the way this works up. This stitch is the Mississippi, or this colorway over here is the Mississippi multi. So it's a very similar yarn. I cannot wait to see how this looks once we work it up. Now, because this is a Tunisian crochet pattern worked in the round, we are going to need a double-ended Tunisian crochet hook. So you can either use a stick hook like I have here. I prefer this for smaller projects like this, or you could use the smallest double-ended cabled set that you have. It almost matches the yarn, doesn't it? With the shortest cable that you have. I find it easier to use the stick for small projects like this, so that is entirely up to you. You will also need a stitch marker or two. We've got that traditional 4mm crochet hook to get started on the heel, and our scissors to clip our yarn and to weave in ends and everything like that. So let's go ahead, get started. For this pattern, since we are doing Tunisian crochet in the round, we need to have a yarn ball for the forward pass and a yarn ball for the backward pass. So I'm going to go ahead and throw this on my Swift and cake this yarn up, and then I'm going to separate that cake into two balls so that I can have that while we're doing the foot here. So I'm going to go separate my yarn into two yarn cakes, and I will be right back. For our toe, we are starting with the traditional crochet hook. I'm going to start with a slip knot. These toes are not all the same for each size, but the premise is the same. So when we're doing our toes, everything is going to be very similar, but you will want to follow along with the size that you are making. These socks are intended to be a little bit snug, so if you're worried about that, or if you're in between sizes, I do recommend going up a hook or going up a pattern size to accommodate for that. So for my size 2 that I am making, I'm using my 4mm crochet hook. I'm going to start with a chain 7. I'm going to place 3 single crochets in the second chain from the hook right here. Now I'm going to single crochet in each of the next 4 chains. I'm going into the back bar there. Now when we get to this last chain here, I'm going to place 5 single crochets in this last chain. Once I get 3 done, I like to move the tail to the other side and hold it down and then kind of crochet around it like this. So number 4 and number 5. And now we're going to place 1 single crochet in each one of those 4 stitches that we made on the opposite side. So you're going into the opposite side of the chain, and we're just going to make a single crochet in each of those 4. When you get back to where you started, you're going to place 2 single crochets in that same as the first. So right in that hole there, I'm going to place 2 single crochets, and then I'll be finished with my toe, or my row 1 of my toe, not the whole toe, I wish. So now I've finished with round 1. So now we're going to start round 2. So in order to do that, we're going to find the first stitch made, which is this one right here. I wish this starting yarn hadn't been so dark, but it's the first single crochet right there. I'm going to place a single crochet in there. I'm going to grab my stitch marker and mark that stitch so that I know where it is. Now I'm going to do 2 single crochets in the next. Now I'm going to single crochet in the next 6 stitches. Place 2 single crochets in the next. One in the next. And 2 in the next. Now I'm going to single crochet in the next 6 stitches. And we'll place 2 single crochets in the final stitch. And we are ready for round 3. So we're going to remove the stitch marker, place 1 single crochet as the first stitch in round 3, and I'm going to replace the stitch marker. Now we're going to do 2 single crochets in the next. We're going to single crochet in 8 stitches, do 2 single crochets in the next, 1 in the next, 2 in the next. Now we're going to single crochet in 8, and then we're going to place 2 single crochets in the final stitch here. Remove the stitch marker. Now on round 3, we are going to place 1 extra stitch just right here, and that's only to move the seam over to where we're right on the edge of our oval. So I'm just going to make 1 extra single crochet. That doesn't affect the chain count or the stitch count. It doesn't do anything. We're not counting it anywhere. We're just moving it over. To start round 4 for size 2, I'm going to do a single crochet in the next, and we're going to mark that stitch. Do 2 in the next, and we'll do single crochet in the next 10. We're just growing this toe. 2 in the next, 1 in the next, and 2 in the next. Single crochet in 10, and now we'll do 2 single crochets in the final stitch. Now for round 5, I'm going to remove the stitch marker, do our single crochet in the next stitch, replace it, two in the next, and now single crochet in 12. 2 in the next, 1 in the next, 2 in the next, and then single crochet in 12. Now we're going to place 2 in our final stitch. And on this round, round 5, we are going to move the seam over 1 more time. So I'm going to just single crochet 1 more time. Again, that does not affect the stitch count or anything. We're just moving the seam. Now for round 6, I'm going to do a single crochet round all the way around, no increasing, no nothing. I will hook back up with you when I'm finished with that. For round 7, I'm going to do, it's a little bit different for my size. I'm going to do 2 single crochets in the first. Mark that first one. Do another one in that same stitch. Now I'm going to single crochet in 16 stitches. 2 crochet in the next, or 2 single crochet in the next. And then I'm going to single crochet in the remaining 16 stitches. Now, on round 8 for my size, it's going to be another round 6, which is no increasing or anything. So I'm going to complete my 16 stitches, do one more round for round 8, and then we will be ready to start on the foot here with our actual Tunisian stitches. Now that I have finished my toe on my size, it's looking like a little toe, isn't that nice? Now we need to go ahead and start with the Tunisian stitches. So I'm going to slip stitch to this next stitch here, and I'm going to place a stitch marker. Keep in mind that these stitches that we've been making are with a 4mm, and now we're switching to the 5mm Tunisian hook, so it might be a little bit difficult to get into these stitches. It's definitely doable. You just might need to use some elbow grease to get it done. So now that we've done that slip stitch, this counts as stitch number 1 with Tunisian. So do not remove this stitch marker. We're going to use that throughout as we're making the heel as well, or when we get to the heel, to make sure that we're on pace at the right stitch at the edge of the foot. So now for this round, we are going to pull up a loop in each stitch around. And like I said, it might be a little bit difficult to get the hook in there. That's okay. So we're coming out of this first one. This is stitch number 1. I definitely recommend counting your loops or your stitches on this first round here. So I'm going to go into the second and just pull up a loop. Like I said, it might be a little bit difficult to get into. That's okay. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 19, and one more. So let's get in 20. Just to make it easier to count the second half, because once you start doing the backward pass, I tend to forget my stitch counts. So now I've got all of my, or over half of my first portion here on my hook. So now I'm going to move my forward pass over here. I'm going to rotate it so I'm looking at the back side, pull my yarn just a little bit so it's not pulling. I'm going to grab my second ball of yarn for my backward pass. I'm going to leave just a little bit of a tail so we can weave it in later. To start the backward pass, we're going to do a chain 1, and now I'm going to do a yarn over, pull through 2. Make that loop not quite so big. Okay, yarn over, pull through 2, pull through 2, pull through 2. So you're going to, with Tunisian crochet in the round, you've got your forward pass and your backward pass, and I do have detailed video tutorials for all of these Tunisian techniques, but you're going to always need to leave at least 2 loops on your hook, and that is going to be 1 for the forward pass and 1 for the backward pass. I've noticed while crocheting many of these socks that it's better for my tension if I leave at least 3 or 4 loops. It tends to not pull these super tight, and for the socks I find that that's important. So I'm going to leave those on there. Now I'm going to pick up with stitch 21, since I did it at an easy to remember number. So this will be 21. Beautiful. I should have 36 for size 2. Let me pull this yarn just a little bit. We'll go ahead and do our backward pass and pull this yarn just a little bit. So you're going to have to stop and do your backward pass as in a spiral. I usually fit about half the stitches on there, sometimes 20, and just keep on. So pull through 2, pull through 2, and this is the backward pass you are going to do throughout the entire sock. You're always going to be yarning over and pulling through 2. I'm going to leave a few stitches on my hook. So now that we've made it all the way back, I have my 36 stitches. You can see that this right here was stitch number 1. So now to make my Tunisian full stitch, I need to go in between the first stitch and the second stitch. So I'm going all the way through the entire fabric and pull up a loop. Go in between the next 2 stitches, straight on through, and pull up a loop. This is the Tunisian full stitch. You always go right in between the stitches. Creates a beautiful color effect. So now I'm not counting anymore because I counted that first round and I know that I've got 36. So I'm going to very carefully make sure that I don't skip any stitches here and just continue going straight through the center in between those stitches. And we will continue working in a spiral just like this. So when you can no longer have any stitches on your hook, I'm getting to that point here shortly, I'm going to turn and knock some off in the backward pass. I'm going to scooch on down to this end, and now I'm going to do my backward pass. For the size 2 that I am making, I need to get to round 40 before I start my heel. So I'm going to continue crocheting these Tunisian full stitch rounds, and when I get to round 40, we will hook back up together, and at that point, let's look at the sock here. So right now we're about right here. We're going to go all the way up until we get to this point, and then we're going to start increasing for the ankle here. So I will catch back up with you once we get to this part. All right, we have made it all the way back around on round 40 for my sock. Before moving on to the heel, we're going to make sure you're going to lay it flat and make sure the toe is nice and flat, and move this, kind of lay it flat and make sure that where you ended is directly on the side of the sock right here. You want to make sure that you are, because our increasing needs to be on the opposite sides of the foot, right? So now we're going to start the heel for my size 2, that is round 41. I'm going to start by doing an increase, which all that is a yarn over. So that's my increase. I'm going to do a Tunisian full stitch in the next, just like that, and we're going to mark this stitch. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take this one out for the other side, but for right now I'm going to mark this stitch right here. I am going to move that stitch marker later, but I want it right there so that I know that that is my increase, or that is my full after the increase. So now, since I've done my increase, I've done my Tunisian full in the next, I've marked it, I'm going to do another increase, so that means just a yarn over. Now I'm going to do a full in 17 stitches for my size. So that counts as the increase. We're going to do in this one here, 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way to 17. That's my 17th. So I'm going to knock all of these off, and then we're going to place our increase on the other side. I always like to leave a few loops on the hook to keep my tension cleaner. So now I've done my 17 stitches. I'm ready for an increase. Actually, let's remove this stitch marker so we have that to work with, because we're going to need it in 2 shakes. All right, we are ready for the other increase. So I'm going to do increase, full, mark it, let's get our stitches adjusted here. Now another increase, and we're going to Tunisian full stitch in the remaining 17 stitches. 1, 2, 3, etc. When we get back to where we started, I'm going to do my backward pass and knock these off. And then we are going to strategically place our increases so that they are on each side of the center Tunisian full stitch that we just created, or that we just marked. So I will pull out my sock here in a moment and show you exactly what I mean. So here we have our increases. So what we just did was that increase, that pink one there, and this pink one here. And so this is the stitch that we marked. So now on this next row that we're about to do, we're going to mark this one. And then this is an increase, and this is an increase. And then on the next one, we mark this one, and this one right here is an increase, and this one is an increase. So always the increases are on either side of this main full stitch right here, and oops, and it's the same for both sides. So you're always placing your increase on the right side and on the left side of this main full stitch. We're just having a running full stitch basically. So let me set this back here and we will do this next round. All right, so here we have that running full stitch, right? So now we want to place an increase in this space here and in this space so that we're going on both sides of that full. So I'm going to increase, just a yarn over, go into this side, and then increase and go into this side, and make sure that you're going directly on the side of that full stitch only. How this goes a diagonal on the inside, that's actually the increase from the previous round. So you want to make sure that you're going into this right here so that it's only that. So you've done your increase on that side, your increase on that side. We are ready to continue doing the Tunisian full stitch all the way to the other stitch marker. And now after this increase, this diagonal one here, you want to make sure you're going into this space, and now continue pulling up loops all the way over to the other stitch marker. Completing those backward passes. And now we're ready to do the increase on this side. So we've got that increase there. The increases are always the diagonal ones. So we're going to increase by a yarn over and go right in between these two, right here, so that the only thing left there is that marked full stitch, the whole stitch. There's the front vertical bar and the back vertical bar. Now we're going to yarn over again, go in between these two right here, right? And then just continue doing the full stitch all the way around. And if you want to, you may find it helpful to move the stitch marker up each row. It's perfectly fine. If you don't want to, I tend to just leave it at the bottom and just watch or look for the running full stitch. But if you want to move it up every row, that's perfectly fine. I've made it back to the other increase or the other stitch marker. So now I'm going to, you can see this right here is my running Tunisian full stitch. So I need to have one more stitch here. And now my increase will go here, and my hook will go here. Increase on the other side of that full right here. And now continue by pulling up loops for the full stitch. So I'm going to do this exact thing, working in a spiral, always increasing on either side of that Tunisian full stitch. And I will hook back up with you when I'm finished with my heel, which for size 2 is going to be through 49 rounds. So not too many more here. As you can see, I have made my way back through the heel and I am ready to do my ankle. I did not move my stitch marker up, but it is easy to count that way. So for size 2, my heel rounds were 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, and 49. I love the way these increases look on the side. It's almost decorative, even though they are necessary. So now that we are ready for the ankle, we want to make sure that we are right before that increase. So I went into this last stitch here. This right here is going to be the first row of our ankle. So this is where we started our backward pass down here. We took that stitch marker and moved it up. So now this is the beginning of that round. For me on the ankle size 2, it's round 50. So I am going to count Tunisian full stitch in the next 39 stitches for my size. This should get me to this side of the increase on this side, all the way over to this side of the increase on this side. 37, 38, and 39 is going to go right on the other side of that main full stitch. So I'm gonna put it right there. And that should be 39 stitches for the size 2. I'm going to knock these off and then we'll do the back side of the heel to help round out the back of the sock. So now we are ready for the decreases along the back of the heel, and we're going to do that. We're going to do Tunisian simple 3 together. So I'm going to take this increase from last time, just that front vertical bar, and the next and the next. That is 3 together, and pull up 1 loop, just like that. Now the next 3, 1, 2, 3, pull up a loop, that's 2, that's 3, that's 4. I'm going to do this 11 times for my size. This is number 11, so I'm going to take these next 3 green vertical bars. Beautiful. All right, now I'm going to knock these off, the backward pass. So I'm ready to start round 2 of my ankle. So for me, this is round 51 for the size 2. I'm going to do a Tunisian full stitch in the next 39 stitches for my size. So I'm going to go in, after this decrease here, I'm going to do a full stitch right there. And that's 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way to 39. 38 and 39, and that's where our decreases from the last round start. I'm going to knock these off on the backward pass. Now we are ready to do our slip stitches across the back of the heel. I'm going to do these simple wise. Since I did the decreases simple, I'm pulling straight on through that 1 loop. Now I'm going to go into my next and do a slip stitch into that 1 loop, just like that. I'm going to do this all the way across, and then we will use our yarn to cinch this up and to make it look very nice on the back end. Now that I have done all of my slip stitches across the back of the heel, I'm ready to start the 3rd round of the ankle, so round 52 for my size. We're going to do a full stitch in each around. So I'm going to go into this next space here. 1, 2, 3, 4, and I should still have those 39 stitches for my size. When you go to do your backward pass this first time here for the ankle, when you're doing those slip stitches, make sure that you do this one a little bit on the tight side. You just want to make sure that that's nice and secure. We are going to go into that space in the following forward pass. So all you're doing is you're just pretending like those slip stitches don't exist, and then we will seam them up in a little bit to create our heel. When we get back around to this heel here, I went into this last space here for my full. Now I'm going to go into the heel space and just into the next full space here. And just continue on making the Tunisian full stitch as normal. You're going to make your leg as tall as you want your sock to be. You can make it a short little guy, you can make it a tall one. I'm just gonna go for, I don't know, we'll see how long I go, and then we'll work on the ribbing together. So I've done 10 rounds on my leg of my sock, and I think that is going to be sufficient for the video purposes. So I'm going to go ahead and take this backward pass yarn, and I'm going to pull it straight on through the forward pass. And I'm going to hold that with my finger, and I'm going to grab my 4mm hook that we have been using earlier. Leave that back there. Grab your forward pass yarn. And now we're going to do a slip stitch all the way around. So I'm going to go into the next here, pull this backward loop, and then we'll be able to clip that here shortly. Slip stitch, don't do it too tight. I'm just going to slip stitch in each full stitch around. And then we will use this 4mm hook to do our edging. Let's go ahead and clip our backward pass yarn here. And it is important to note while we are working here with these 2 balls of yarn. So this one is my forward pass and this one is my backward pass. If you only need 1 hank of yarn to make both of your socks like I did, you will need to separate these into 2. So generally speaking, Tunisian crochet, the forward pass uses more yarn than the backward pass does. So since we're using the forward pass yarn to make the toe and the edging, next time when you make your next sock, you might want to flip-flop them, because the backward pass should have a lot more yarn in it than this one if your yarn balls were equal when you started. So anyway, forward pass uses more yarn than the backward pass, and that is generally true with most Tunisian stitches. Let's just go ahead and slip stitch to the top of that first stitch there. Beautiful. And now we are ready to start our edging. So in order to do that, I'm going to do a chain 9. This is one of my favorite edgings. I'm going to do a half double crochet slip stitch in the second chain from the hook. I'm going into the back bar here. Pull up that loop. And now you've got your 3 loops on your hook for a half double, but you're going to pull that loop straight on through the first 2. So yarn over, go into the next back bar, pull up a loop, hold it with your thumbnail, and just pull it straight on through those first 2. So we're going to do that all the way until we get back to the sock. Now that we've got our first round of the edging, we are going to find the next stitch on the sock. So I'm going to go into this one right here, and I'm going to do a slip stitch. Don't do these super tight either. You don't want them super loosey-goosey, just regular. You don't want them super tight or super loose. In the next one, we're going to place, to start the next row, we're going to slip stitch into the next. So it always looks like you have 2 slip stitches next to each other on the sock, on the ribbing. So those are those. Now I'm going to turn this way, and I'm going to half double crochet slip stitch in each of these 3rd loops all the way across. It sounds much more complicated than it is. Let's do it together. All right, so I'm going to wrap my yarn for a half double. I'm going to find the first 3rd loop. So the 3rd loop are these running all the way across, horizontally across the back edge of these half double stitches. We're going to find that first one here, and that's just that 3rd loop. And we're going to do our half double slip stitch. 3rd loop, half double slip stitch. We're going to do this all the way to the end of the row. This is number 8 right here, just that 3rd loop. And now we're ready to do the next round, or row. So I'm going to yarn over and turn this way. I'm going to do a half double slip in this first 3rd loop here, right here. And in each to the end. So we're going to do slip in the next, slip in the next to start the next row. We're going to rotate it this way, yarn over and go into this 3rd loop here, all the way to the end. This last one can look a little sideways. It's this one right here. Now ready to yarn over and go back the other direction. All right, we've got this hiding one here. So I insert my hook just like this, kind of snag that back guy right there, pull him to the front, and now go ahead and complete that half double crochet. This slip stitch is coming out of this one, so we're going to go into this one. Slip stitch. Turn. Here we go. I am almost all the way back around on my edging. For this final edging row, I'm going to slip stitch to the base of row 1. Turn. We're going to do the slip stitch in the 3rd loop only, not a half double. I'm just going to do slips, just like that. Slip, 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 slip. And now we are ready to fasten off. I'm going to clip my yarn, giving myself enough yarn to sew this together. I'm going to fasten off here and thread my yarn needle. I'm going to go in this other side over here and just kind of hook row 1, the outside edge of row 1. And now I'm going to sew these two together. And I'm just going to weave in my ends. I'm going to go ahead and remove my stitch markers, put my hand in as my leg. And once we get our heel in here, it's going to fill this in very nicely. It's going to look beautiful, just like this one. So I'm going to pull up my yarn. I'm going to go through some of the backward pass here right at the top of the ankle or at the start of the leg. I will use this to weave in this tail here in a little bit, but I'm just going to sew back and forth, and I'm going to make sure, especially here at the top of this opening, and we can come back because it's not very much, obviously. I want to make sure that I'm getting some of this backward pass to help kind of cinch it up and make sure that none of these holes are huge at the end. And if you want to go back through, so I'm going to do these backward, or these slip stitches basically. These are the slip stitches here. So I've been going back and forth along the heel to kind of cinch up all of these backward passes. It looks a little sloppy because I think of all of the yarn color changes. But once we get our heel in there, it's going to open that up nicely and it's going to look gorgeous. So I'm going to weave in my ends. Weave in that end, clip that, and let's put our sock on our little foot model here to see what it looks like. Let's lay it flat first off. Here are these beautiful increases along the back. We've got our heel that's cinched up. Let's put it on the foot and see how it goes. And here we are with our completed Tunisian sock. I love the increases on the side here. They look nice and beautiful. And then the heel has great decreasing along the back here. I just love it. I hope you love this sock pattern as much as I do, and I can't wait to crochet with you soon. Thanks for watching.